Welcome to A Well-Designed Business with your host, LuAnn. LuAnn has a lifetime of experience building a multi-million-dollar business with her husband and cousin, and she knows the challenges you face in your interior design business. LuAnn brings you real-life answers to your most pressing problems, as well as practical strategies to explode your interior design business. So, let's get to the business of interior design.
Hi, welcome to another episode of A Well-Designed Business. If this is the first time that you're coming to the show, thank you so much for joining us. I hope you like it. Today on the show, I have Christie Leu, the principal of Christie Leu Interiors. Christie's firm is in D.C., but you'll hear her discuss how she's from Ohio and how her first career was as an artist. But let me be very clear, she was not a starving artist. She was a working artist who ran it as a business. Christie participated in juried shows and sold her work to galleries, stores, and catalogs. After completing several major renovations to a series of her own homes, Christie realized how much she loved every step of the interior design process. With her youngest children just starting preschool, she enrolled at Montgomery College and earned an associate degree of applied sciences in interior design with a further specialization in kitchen and bath design. Christie was a star student, and she won the local version of the National Kitchen and Bath Design Competition, and she was also asked to serve on the Montgomery College Advisory Board for Interior Design. Today, Christie and I will share with you how we came to meet each other, and it's kind of fun. It was for us anyway. So stick around. I'm going to tell you a little bit about our show sponsor, and then I'll be back to introduce you to Christie. My great thanks to my DOMA Studio, our podcast sponsor. What is my DOMA Studio? Well, you know, as busy interior designers, that running your own design firm isn't just about designing. That's what we talk about here all the time, right? There's managing contracts, clients, payments, products, and a million other things that you have to have locked down. It is challenging, but you must run your firm efficiently so you can do the fun, creative things you enjoy so much. And that's where my DOMA Studio comes in. I'd like to invite you to try My DOMA Studio today. Go to mydomastudio.com/a-well-designed-business. Designers around the world are using My DOMA Studio. What about you? Let My DOMA Studio help you organize the business side and spend more time on the designing side of your firm. I'd also like to share with you that Vin, Bill, and myself are so impressed with My DOMA Studio that we have invested in this company. So see for yourself what My DOMA Studio can do for your interior design business. And if you visit using the link mydomastudio.com/a-well-designed-business, you will receive a special offer just for you as listeners of the podcast. Hi, Christie. Thanks so much for joining me on A Well-Designed Business today.
Hey, LuAnn, it's so great to talk to you. I've been listening to you for so long. It's great to be a part of the show.
Yeah, so I'm happy that we're doing this together. You and I became Instagram friends first, and then we met down at the IWCE in person. And before we talk more about our little past, the other person that I met at IWCE in March in Charlotte was Paula. And you and Paula have and a really, truly hysterical story. So why don't you share that story with everybody first? You and Paula shared it with me, and I was like going nuts.
Okay. Well, Paula and I met when we were down at KBIS, the Kitchen and Bath Industry Show, on a shuttle bus, riding from the show to our hotels. And we had a fast and furious conversation, and she was just coming back into the industry, and going on her own. And I said, the first thing you have to do is download these podcasts, because you will get all the information you need to restart this business and in the new 21st century environment. And so we're talking. And then it came time, and I was at my hotel, and I said, and she was also from my hometown, which is Cleveland. Oh,
how funny. But you don't live there now, which is kind of funny.
No, I don't. Now I
right?
live in D.C.
Right.
So we said, oh, okay, bye. And I think I gave her my card, and then we left, and that was it.
But then let me say what happened to me now. Okay. So in between that and IWCE, Paula she reaches out to me through Instagram, I think it is, and it's just like, LuAnn Nigara, I love your podcast. I had like something, she said something like, I had a fairy godmother that I met at the KBIS show on a bus, and she told me about your show, and I'm loving it and learning everything, but I don't know her name, so I just want to say thank you to her for telling me about your show. And so I'm like, oh, that's pretty cool. Wonder who it is. Okay, so that happens to you too. That happens to us too. And then I give my presentation in Charlotte, and I come off stage. You come up and introduce yourself to me, and
yeah, I came up. The reason I went to that conference, in addition to wanting to know a few things about window treatments, was that I found out that you were the keynote speaker.
Aww.
I was like, okay, that's it. I booked a flight. I got there at 9 p.m, and I was there in the morning so I could be there for that keynote speaker, which was you. And it was fabulous, by the way.
Thank you.
And so after you spoke, I went up to introduce myself, of course. And Paula comes running down the aisle, and she said, "You're Christie Leu. You're the woman." And then we make all the connections, and that was the story.
It was so funny. And I'm standing there looking, because you and I had been Instagram friends for months at that point, and here I'm Instagram friends with Paula, and never knowing the connection between the two of you. And it just goes to show what a small world it really is, right? Here's the two of you on a bus together. You're both from Cleveland. You're in Las Vegas. You don't live there anymore. I mean, and then you both come down to Charlotte. I mean, it's just so something else. And so I thought that was hysterical.
Yeah. That was a good story.
Yeah. So here's the other thing that happened, Christie. And I'm letting everybody know, when we were standing there at IWCE after the conference, after the presentation, you were telling me how we were chatting about your business and this and that and the other thing. And you were telling me how you had gone to a Gail Dobie event the previous summer, and that out of that event, you and 3 other interior designers, Darcy, Heather, Lisa Escobar, and Jesse Cooney, all created like this little mini mastermind based on your meeting each other as strangers at the Gail Dobie event. And I looked at you and I'm like, oh, that's a show. So tell us a little bit about, the Gail Dobie event, what happened, and what you women have created from this.
Okay, well, we started with a Gail Dobie Design Summit, which I highly recommend. I loved. Great way to meet other people, because a lot of us are isolated in our own little studios and so busy that we don't really even have time to meet other people, even at our design centers. And so we're there and concentrating on business practices and everything else. And all of us, we found, were at similar levels in different ways within our business, and also had particularly Jesse and I had some really similar life experiences at the same time with children and family and da-da-da. And Jesse was the mastermind who came up with the idea of, let's have our own mini summit, and we'll meet at my house, and she has a big office as well. And we're going to talk about some of the subjects more in depth and really, really take a look at everything. And so she set up a weekend retreat for all of us.
Wow.
And not only did it have, the opportunity to talk about business, which all of us could do 24 hours 7. We love it. And we recommend this podcast. And did you listen to this one? And there's flying emails all the time. But she also had her sister-in-law, who's a wonderful cook, cater it for the weekend. So she delivered food all weekend long. And
Jessie knows how to do things right, I hear.
Yeah, it was awesome. I mean, delicious, healthy foods. And then she also had a psychic and an energy worker come in and work with us. Now, the psychic didn't make it because there was a snowstorm that weekend, and we ended up extending it for a day because we couldn't fly out.
Darn.
One of us, Lisa is from Las Vegas. I'm from D.C. Darcy is from New York, and she could drive to the Berkshires where Jesse lives. So she couldn't leave because she couldn't drive. So we were all still there for an extra day, and we spent that extra day so well by going over our contracts together. Was terrific. And yeah, and I'll tell you, we did a role play presentation, each of us, of what we say to our clients and kind of describe our process through, and it was really, really helpful. And you find, as we've learned from listening to podcasts, every one of us does it differently, according to our backgrounds, according to our experiences. And it is absolutely fascinating.
And so the question I have is, because we're thinking about, as soon as you told me about it, I was like, this is a duplicatable thing. This is something that your colleagues listening could really capitalize on and duplicate and do for themselves. So, and part of my brain says there's multiple ways that a small group of interior designers could do this together. They could do it remotely over Skype. They could do it the way you did, where you really truly make a retreat summit out of it. They could be designers that are from the same geographic area and they could just meet together for an afternoon or a day. But I have to say, all of those I can imagine and easily understand would have great value. But that being locked in the same house with snowstorm notwithstanding probably really led to some deeper level conversations on business and really, helping each other learn from each other's experiences. Would you say that's the truth, Christie?
I would definitely say so. And I think the additional thing, which everybody knows when you have a sleepover party, you get into personal things, and in our business, our personal is our business. It's all combined, and that's how you react to your clients, and that's how your personal everything is because our businesses are us.
Right.
We are our business. I am Christie Leu Interiors because I'm Christie Leu.
Right.
And that is how all of us are operating. Right. And so we really got to know one another, and that gave us a real understanding of the reasoning behind the process that people have.
And to your point, you are Christie Leu Interiors because you are you. And I didn't even give you a chance to tell us a little bit. What happens is when I know somebody, I'm like, oh yeah, we all know everything about you. So give us a little bit of background on why you are Christie Leu Interiors.
Okay, I really had an epiphany moment, as I often do when I listen to a podcast of yours, with Fred Burns the other day, who was talking about your only. He was talking about you describe yourself and you are the only person who do this thing, and that's your valuable asset that you're going to recommend. And I, like many people, did not value enough what my only is. So let me tell you, I started as an artist. I was self-employed as an artist from the time I graduated from college. And I started my artist business as a business, not solely as an artist, but I serendipitously took a class in taxes for artists. And that allowed me to set up my business practices right from the beginning. And it's just what you talk about so often is if you've got processes and practices, you have that, it's your hanger to hang everything else on. It gives you the structure.
Right.
And so it was a natural progression for me, who always has loved houses and always, decorated and changed and remodeled, to go from being an artist, business person, to a business person who designs interior spaces. Mm-hmm. And so that's my own, I am probably, and if you add in the fact that I have 5 children and 3 of them are triplets, I am the only artist triplet mom, interior designer, probably in the country, at least in the Washington, D.C. area.
At the very least in the D.C. area. But...
And let me add another little nuance, who has a wonderful, fabulous assistant who also has triplets who are the exact same age as mine. Coincidentally, I hired her from Craigslist.
That is bizarre. That part is bizarre.
That's my only, and that's my, and I think all of those things have led me to give my clients a fabulous experience as an interior designer and in the process of working with them.
And you know what I love about what you just said is that as strangers, we could look and see how those criteria create a very unique viewpoint to you as a person and to what you'll bring to a project. The fact that you were and are an artist who was a business, not just a starving artist on the weekends and, never makes any money on it. The fact that you are a mother of 5 children, that they are triplets in there. And then, like you said, add to it the coincidence that your assistant has triplets the same age. But what I find is I often get communication from designers that will say, I don't have an only. I don't know what my only is. Well, I have this with my other job, but that's not an only. And the reality is I love, Christie, that you took Fred's message to heart, that you truly, this is my only. I really am the only one that is an artist of 15 years that was successful as a business, as 5 kids. And the thing is, you've stepped into that space now. And one of the things that you shared with me before is now you and your assistant are on the hunt for that one client that also has triplets, right?
Yep. We want to do it. We think that would be so much fun.
Right. Well, because you bring something to it, right? You come with a perspective of what it's like. And the thing is that, again, I'm just going to say, somebody else outside could underestimate that a value of being a mom of triplets. But I would venture to say every other mom of triplets knows exactly what that's like. Like for the rest of us, we're just like, wow, oh my God, I guess that's really a different way of looking at, storage, a different way of looking at this. But you really understand what it's like to, store, 5 sets of cleats every soccer season.
Well, not only that, but any client who has triplets is going to know the value of quick decision making. Okay. There are going to be no deliberations about things. That makes me insane. But you have a process for everything. And as an artist, not all artists have a process, but I have triplets. And if I wanted to have time for myself, everything had to be planned and choreographed. And that is exactly what a design project is, isn't it? Okay. It's a choreography of contractors, homeowners, design professionals, suppliers. All of it comes together. That's your life as a triplet mom.
Okay. See, that's a part of it that I hadn't thought. I was thinking about the designing of the space for all the different needs in the storages, but you're talking about that really helicopter view of how a mom that runs a home with triplets has to be highly organized, and you transfer that to your projects. That's awesome. I like that. Exactly. And that is a perspective that is worthwhile sharing. So that's great, Christie. I love that. All right. So I should have let you do that in the beginning of the show, but now let's go a little bit more to this mastermind, this summit that you guys created. So I know from our other conversations that you guys covered contracts, role play, your processes, and that you have, 2 of you at least, in the month and a half, 2 months since you've had your summit meeting, have hired somebody. So tell us a little bit about the aha moments that came from the role playing of each of you taking a turn and presenting contract to the others as if they were your prospective client.
Okay, 2 of us are much, much more confident about asking for money.
Okay.
And so that was fun, to see how simply they present and say, just give me the money. And then they just get it. Here's what I want. Here's what I'm worth. And just give it to me. And nobody even questions it. Right. So I think that was an aha to say, and I've heard it from others on your show too, that if you feel confident in your value, you will get what you need. Mm-hmm. That was fantastic.
It's one thing to hear it, though. It's another thing to watch somebody do it, right? And go, I could do that. That really didn't look like rocket science, right?
Exactly. And I think that crucible of being all together like that, we saw that person walk in their space and be the way they are, and it all kind of gelled and made sense. Mm. And then
and so I'm curious, were you one of the 2 that is confident in presenting price, or one of the 2 that was lesser confident?
I am a little bit more empathetic. I wouldn't say that I'm not confident. I'm fairly confident.
I was going to say, I don't see you as not being confident.
Yeah,
so.
No, I'm pretty confident, but I do sometimes question myself. Okay. And I can take on the empathy of a person who is feeling tightened by their budget, and I'll go, ooh, maybe not. Oh, maybe I should do this. Okay. And so it strengthened my resolve not to be that.
Okay.
But I don't want to be not empathetic. I do like that about myself. I can feel people, and that's a part of the reason that I'm good at designing for them, because I feel what they really like. And if I'm in the room with both a husband and a wife, I will know how to meld the 2 and make that room work for both of them, even in a situation where both have a completely different idea of what they want.
Okay,
and
so that's a particular superpower.
Yeah, that's an empathy that I don't want to lose. And part of it, then, there's always a positive and a negative to any superpower.
Right.
So, you just have to know where you need to be strong. And the more you're aware of it, the better off you are using it to your advantage.
Well, that's what I was just going to say to you. Prior to the role-playing activities, were you aware of it as something that you needed to work on, or in seeing the contrast, you went, I'm not as strong there. That's something I now acknowledge and see and know it's something that I have to, be more, try and work on.
I think it made my awareness that it was really possible, that you could really put that behind you and just ask for the money and just not even.
Okay.
And I hear you. I mean, I know you're the queen of that.
So the thing is, for me, and I hope this is a helpful thing to say, and because you do, I hear you that you listen to the show and you're like, I know you don't have a problem with that, but I want to share, sort of the mindset. It's not all about, for me, it's not really strictly confidence. In other words, it does come with confidence, and it comes with, I love sales and I love to play with it, and I love the challenge and the negotiation of it. But it actually truly, for me, is rooted in my mind, and maybe this will be a little bit of an aha, I don't know, you'll tell me. In my mind, I'm giving the person that I'm presenting the price or the sale to full responsibility for themselves to be a full-grown adult. Like, in my mind, so if I tell you something is $10,000 and you say, oh my goodness, I love that so much, but my budget is $8,000. It's like, well, you're a big grown up woman. Either make a new selection that's $8,000 or, come up with $2,000 more somewhere else. Like, it's not up to me to make what you picked work in your price range. It's like if you went in to buy a car, if you said, I have $20,000 to buy a car, the car dealership isn't going to roll out a Mercedes for you. You know what I'm saying? So for me, it is like I often say about how much I love the dance and the negotiation and all that, but it really is rooted in, I'm standing in your space, in your home, and I'm trusting that you're a grown-up and you have arrived at your budget based on grown-up reasons. And if you have a budget that's based on what you can really afford, and what we just picked is more than your budget, well, I'm not afraid to tell you what you just picked costs, because I'm assuming as a grown-up, if it's more than you can afford, you'll figure out a way with me to modify it to fit your budget. You know what I'm saying? So it's not up to me to make your Mercedes fit in your Civic budget. It's like,
yes. And I totally understand what you're saying. And that actually leads me to one of the other things that our little mastermind group has been still talking about, is the question of a standard markup on products.
Okay. Where are you guys at with that?
Well, we have gone back and forth on it, and it is a really interesting conversation. Of course, I find all business interesting.
Yes.
Because we feel, some of us, I'm one of the people who feels, you give a person a price, and I do not ever force someone to buy anything. Right. Never. Here's the price. Here's how much it costs. And you can take it or leave it. If you don't like it, we'll find something else. Right. If you like it, let's go ahead. Well, there's a debate, and it's partially brought on by the consumers who want to know what our cost is and what our markup is. And as you've heard from many people, they say, well, you don't ask Walmart, what do they cost?
Right.
But at the same time, there are many people who are doing this in the industry, who are giving the price and giving their markup. And so what do you do? And I still feel it can be my business, but I'm not going to force you to buy something. Here's how much it costs, because it certainly varies on how long have I had a relationship with a vendor and whether they're giving me a better discount. And I still am giving my clients very good prices, but that's it. So we've got the other camp who, and it particularly seems to happen in the higher end clients, not the lower end clients, who have some savvy about these kinds of things, and who have worked with designers before, and some of whom are doing the straight markup. They're the ones who are tending to press that issue.
So it's the higher end consumer that is saying, I want to know what you're paying for it and what the difference, what you're actually marking it up. You're having that more at that end of the spectrum than the lower end of the spectrum.
Yes. That's my experience and our little anecdotal experience between the four of us in our little group.
And what are you guys doing about it? Have you guys, are all of you, what is the nitty gritty of it? Are you just saying, look, okay, you want to know what it is. This is what it is. You're still paying it, or you're saying it's my proprietary information and this is your price. How are you handling it?
It's a really interesting question and a good one, because it's a bit of a dilemma,
Yes.
So what we need and what we've been using is our historical data, which we've been keeping, thank goodness, time tracking and all the things we always talk about. You track every project. What we do is we've been looking at is taking a previous project that's similar, analyzing it to death, figuring out what the costs are, and saying, okay, here's what my costs are. Here's my time allotted. Here's what my assistant's doing, and how much do I need to mark up product in order to get to that number that is what we need for our profit and our overhead and everything else. So really helpful to have that historical data. And then there still is a decision, do we want that or not? But if there's a client that's worth having, that's really a reason. There are some of these people, they're very reasonable people, and they're asking this question because they've had it in the past. So can we offer that? Or can we possibly offer it two ways? So I think I think Jessie is the one who's really up against it right now, is what she's done is she's analyzed it both ways. And she said, either I can do it as a flat fee and here's my number. And then you will also get, we'll do a flat, whatever percentage off of product, or my flat fee will be lower, but I will present you with my retail prices, and you won't get a whole accounting for every other price. And she's giving the choice to the client, basically letting them be the adults that they are and make that choice.
Okay. So the thing is, what you're saying is that she's saying a higher flat fee and no markup on product, or a higher flat fee and lesser markup on product, or the other option. Well, what is that one? What is that one first?
So hers was, the one option is the higher flat fee and a lesser markup on product that is a known number.
Okay. Or she's saying, I can charge you a lesser flat fee, a lesser design fee, basically, and then disclose everything. Okay. So I'm aware that there are designers that are doing, well, of course, Kimberley Selden, right? We've talked about her, which, there are designers that are charging just the flat fee, and then the product then it doesn't matter. Here's a lamp that's $2,000, or here's a lamp that's $200. I'm not attached to which one you purchase. I think they're both beautiful, and that's your call. So what about that model? Because that's my
model.
Okay. See, that seems to take, but here's the thing, what you said in there, and Kimberley Selden has said it as well. And so is Deb Pinelli, by the way, from New Jersey, said the same thing. If you're going to do that flat fee, and that's your only fee, you really have to do what you described. You have to painstakingly go through not one, but several projects and really account for all the hours, all the work, and come up with a real number to create so a bathroom has this number, a kitchen has this number, a master bedroom has that number, right, Christy? Mm-hmm. So that you can know that if I'm going to charge you, I have no idea the ratio numbers, $10,000, a flat fee on a bathroom, that $10,000 is going to cover your 9,000 trips to the plumbing supply and to the job site and everything else. And then you don't care if she picks, tile that's $4 a square foot or $40 a square foot.
Right.
Right?
Right.
Okay.
Right.
So that process is, you can't skip that point in that process, though.
No, you can't.
And you can't fool yourself in that process. You can't be like, well, it usually takes me an hour to design a bathroom. It's like, no, right? Like you have to be right. Okay.
You have to be time tracking all the time. That's I think that's the biggest takeaway for me. And I didn't start doing flat fee until after this, or even entertaining the idea of flat fee until after our summit. So I had a big turnaround there. Oh. And in addition to listening to you and Kimberley Selden and some of your podcasts that talked about it, this kind of solidified that I could do it, having talked to this group who are are fantastic, by the way.
Yeah, well, you know what? I think, look, I'm not a designer, and I don't really on a daily level deal with this level of your business. I deal, personally with WindowWorks there's so many correlations, but not this one. And so, but it's just from a logical standpoint, it just strikes me as the way to remove all the nonsense. It's like the client gets the flat fee up front. They make an agreement to it. They don't. And then everything along the way is like we both said, their grown-up decision about whether to have A or B choice. And there's no whining about anything. It's like, whatever. You know what I mean? Like, you agreed to that, remember, 4 months ago. I don't,
You would think there'd be no whining, but of course you get those clients who need more and more and more options, and you have to write into your contract that you give one or two options and then move on if they can't perseverate over things.
Right. That's like what Kimberley calls scope creep, right? Where she says you can't let that get in and they start to talk to you about other rooms, or like you said, asking
it's
for
a little
floor
different.
Revisions. You're talking about revisions on the same space and stuff like that.
Revisions on the same space. So
Right.
you've got to really have some good boundaries.
Right.
Boundaries are a big part of a flat fee contract.
Okay. So you enunciate that in the contract, that maybe in your experience, 2 revisions on on tile selections for a bathroom is reasonable, but 4 is like you're out of your mind, lady. Right?
Yes.
Okay.
Because within that revision, I'm giving them several options. So, and I'm usually spot on with what people like.
Right.
I'm not way off. They always end up going back to their first choice.
Well, that is true, right? Yeah.
So if they're doing multiple revisions, that's on them.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. And then you put that in as a line item on your initial contract and said this will cost X amount of dollars.
And this was part of our contract discussion. We discussed every line item on every contract.
I love it.
And talked about it. It was fantastic.
And the thing is, Christie, of course, it's so helpful to listen to Kimberley Selden, both on this podcast and now she has her own podcast. There's no question. And there's no question, her books on flat fee and everything else and anybody else that has a conversation on it. But it's the layer of being face-to-face with people that are doing exactly what you're doing and having that at-length conversation about it just strikes me as just that whole nother layer of wonderfulness, really. You know what I'm saying, right?
Absolutely. Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, so I think it's really terrific. So that's why I really wanted to talk about this conversation here because, as I said in the beginning, if you were just at High Point and you hit it off with 2 or 3 people and you could, reach out to them and you could do a Skype meeting once a month and really have these conversations, block out 2 hours and say, let's talk about our contracts today. Let's talk about our flat fees. Let's talk about how you put the provisions in there for revisions and so forth like that. By the way, I heard that you guys met Sandra at High Point on the bus.
Yes. I was so excited. I've listened to at least 3 of her 4 podcasts with you, and I definitely follow her on Instagram. So that was super fun.
I know. She's like, I just got fangirled. That was funny. She was laughing. She was telling me that story. So, all righty. So, okay. So, what else did you mentioned briefly, and I don't know how much business help it was, but I imagine, tell us about what was the energy person that your friend brought in there? Like, what was that about? Did that help business, or was that just for fun and for just personal fulfillment?
As I said, I think our personal is our business. Mm-hmm. So you get your energy working. I don't know. I came home, and after having had that energy work, she did energy work. She talked to us about our inner goddesses. She described each of our inner goddesses, and I think we were assigned. We chose it by a card, and we picked the card, and that was our goddess. I'm an avid swimmer. I swim at least 3 times a week, about 12, 15 miles a week.
Wow.
And so I got a water goddess, and I was like, okay, I gotta believe this.
That's right. Not a coincidence.
If you talk to Jessie, I'm not even going to tell you about her goddess because I want you to talk to her and ask her. It was so funny. She's a strong woman, and we love that about her.
Yeah. War goddess.
Yeah, it was a goddess. Yeah.
That's awesome.
So it was all helpful, and I came home and I straightened out a bunch of things in my personal life right after that. Okay. So I don't know whether you believe it or not, I believe there might be something to it. So it can't hurt.
Well, I do believe in all of that stuff, and I do believe it from the standpoint of what you just expressed. It's so much of being your A-game person in business is feeling and owning your A game as a person. So
exactly.
Yeah, I just, if I'm not, if I'm not feeling, I'm going to use the word balance, but of course life is never balanced. But if I'm not feeling balance, I just use that word. And then it's tougher to go out and do everything that's required of us as entrepreneurs for our 12 and 14-hour days in order to get it done and to feel. And I feel like it does inform, like what you were saying about knowing that, hey, other people do it that way, so there's a way I can see and make a change. But if you have to start with, I think, having that feeling inside that you've got something going on, that you're capable of something, and then when that new idea comes across you, you have a little bit more, oomph in order to execute it, right? To put it into action. Yeah. Very cool. Very cool. And then the other topic that you discussed was processes, your processes. Any enlightenments there that we could share with your colleagues?
I think we're all interested in trying to smooth the whole process from beginning to end. And so I think we talked about, when do you present the contract? Do you bring a contract to the very first meeting? I do. I bring a contract to the meeting. It's based on the conversation I had by phone, and 95% of the time I sign that contract at that first meeting.
Wow.
Because I've already screened them out by phone. I say yes or no in my mind, and to them if I need to, before I ever have a personal meeting. So I come to that personal meeting having asked the questions, and we go right into, at that meeting, it's the very first time I'm meeting them sometimes, I already am measuring, because I'm not going to come out twice. I am efficiency.
You got 5 kids at home.
Like, the contract's written. I put in the information into my contract. I don't make it so specific that I can't put addendums on it or add the proposals that I need for any products that I'm going to be purchasing. But I describe what the work is going to be loosely and specifically as much as I can, so that I can have that contract signed right then. And pick up and take a retainer right then.
And are you the only of the 3 that handles it that way, or did you of the 4, or did you find that the others did as well?
I think at least one of us had another step before they got there, and I think just one. And we said, well, fix that so you can take that step out, because I anytime, like, if I can meet with the client fewer times and more quality time, that's what I want.
Yes. Well, that's right. And that, you know what, that goes exactly to your point at the beginning of the conversation, that as an extremely busy woman, mother, business owner, wife, you don't have time to putz around with, coffee 16 times. Here's the contract, sign, let's move.
Yeah.
So, and that informs your business. I think it's really awesome. That is your only, Very cool. Very cool. So you guys met originally in the late summer of 2016. You got together in the beginning of winter 2017 for your first in-person weekend summit. It's now spring going into early summer of 2017. Do you have plans to meet again? I hear that you're talking all the time. Do you do conference calls, or is it individual email? Is it an email chain? How are you keeping your learning going on between the 4 of you?
It isn't. It would be nice to formalize it a little bit more, but I will say it's all of those. We've had some definite email chains, particularly about new employees, about flat fee contracts, the percentage markup questions. I have visited with 2 of the 3 of us already, even though that they live at fair distances. Wow. Washington's a great place to visit, so it's easy for people to come here, and it's easy to get to. So we've met, we've talked by phone, we've talked by email, and I think all of us are on Instagram, so I always see what's going on in their projects, and there's a comment or it relates to something we talked about, so we'll say, hey, I see you got it, or whatever it is. So so far
cool.
It's really been fantastic.
Well, and it's funny because just as we're recording, the show that went up yesterday was with Pulp Design Studio, and this is Carolina Gentry and Beth DiTolo, and they are partners that they have 2 locations for their firm, one in Dallas and one in Seattle, and they have about 4 employees at each location. But if you listen to the episode, first of all, they're a riot. I totally love them. And second of all, you'll hear that they really run it as one office, which I thought was interesting. So it's not like the Dallas location is doing some projects and the Seattle location is doing others. They might have somebody in Dallas sourcing product for a project that's happening in Seattle and vice versa. So they really function as one. And maybe this is helpful for you girls. What they have is they have a private Facebook group for just the Pulp employees, so that they can, put pictures in and do different things. And maybe, that might be an efficient way for the 4 of you, if you had your own little Facebook group and you could then put questions and answers and communication. So I thought that was pretty clever. It's like we're all in a gabillion Facebook groups. And then I thought, never thought of it. Just your own little 6 or 8 or 10 people, So
yeah.
Anyway, So I love it, Christie. I think it's awesome. I think that it's just such a, it sort of seems like, that's not the most new idea in the world, LuAnn, to get together with your designer friends and have a conversation. But I love the way you did it. I love that you thought about it. I love that you're strangers. I think that helps sometimes, that when you're strangers, right? Don't you?
Yeah. And let me give the credit too to Jesse, who really was the person who put it together, who orchestrated it all.
Yeah, there's something to being together with strangers, because there is a particular dance of, you don't come to the table with your preconceived notions of who and what they are and the way they do things, where you might with a designer bestie that's been in your ASID group for years and you think you know how their business is run, right? And so there's a value to that, because you come a little more open-minded. And then, of course, there's always the dance of, at least my MO when I'm in a group of people that are new for me, I like to do a lot of listening before I do a lot of talking. You know what I mean? Because you don't want to step on toes, and you want to get the dynamics of the group and so forth like that. And so, but the listening is so valuable, and that's in this particular situation where you're literally coming together to learn from each other better business practices. The listening is like A1. So that's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah.
Very cool. Very cool. Well, Christie, I have to say, I am really enjoying getting to know you these last several months, and it's becoming more and more clear to me what a smart lady you are, both in business and in life. And I know we're going to keep running into each other, and I'm very happy about that. And I'm looking forward to meeting your buddies here.
Terrific. I'm looking forward to meeting them too. They're wonderful people.
Yes. All righty. Well, thanks so much for being on the show and sharing this new fun idea with your colleagues about having your own mini summits.
Okay. Thank you, LuAnn. I'll keep listening.
Thank you so much to our sponsor, Kate the Socialite. Are you tired of trying to create your email newsletter? Does lack of time or lack of know-how always stop you in your tracks? If it does, believe me, I feel it. I know what you're talking about. It's enough already. Claim your spot in Socialite Subscribe. This is a monthly service created by Kate the Socialite that delivers gorgeous, pre-made newsletters that you or your assistant can customize and send out in minutes. Go to socialitesubscribe.com today. And you know what? If you use the code LuAnn20, LuAnn20, you get 20% off your first month. So another tip is head over to episode 104, where I've interviewed Kate the Socialite, and you'll hear her explain to you all the different ways that her company can serve your interior design firm. Christie and I talked about the coincidences we share because of the podcast, but then off air, she shared one more coincidence with me. So it turns out that because Christie was listening to the podcast and she heard the episode with Mark McDonough of Tastefully Inspired, how he was sharing all kinds of tips on Instagram. That's why she then decided to launch an Instagram feed for herself. And of course, that's how her and I got connected. So I just love all the circles. I think it's so much fun. And I just want to say that Mark was on episode 110, and he is a genius when it comes to marketing and all things SEO. And he did share a ton of tips on that particular episode. And since then, Mark and I have become great friends, and we talk probably about every week or every other week. And I'm very lucky because he keeps sharing things with me. So very exciting stuff, of course. Now, don't forget that Mark also has, of course, he has the Tastefully Inspired blog, which is all started from, and then he launched his podcast where he shares more of those marketing tips. And then he also has a YouTube channel that he's been doing, and he does a lot of Instagram stories. So look at the top of your feed for his Instagram stories. They're tons of fun. Alrighty. Okay, takeaways from this particular episode. Want to know how many of you were recently at some sort of interior design event, whether it was a networking event with your local chapter, or maybe you went to High Point Market last month. Think about it. Did you make a connection, even a small one, with somebody new, somebody that you just shared something with and you kind of hit it off, and maybe you follow each other now on Instagram or Facebook or something? Could you reach out and suggest that you guys start your own little group that's going to push each other and help each other figure out these challenges? Now, of course, you could go for the gusto like these ladies did and do a full-out weekend summit with wine and food and energy masters and contract negotiation discussions and all of that. But you also could do it on a much smaller level. You could meet just monthly with Skype or Zoom. I don't know if you remember the episode way back, episode number 55 with Rachel Moriarty. Rachel talked to us how she has work jams every week. I wonder if she's still doing those. This is almost a year later now. Probably, if I know her. She's very organized and very intentional. But you remember, she uses some designer besties, I think, that she has not met at face-to-face, at least at that point. Maybe since then she has. But they were getting together, like, say, every Monday morning at 10 o'clock. And that was specifically a work jam accountability session. So they would get on, all say hello to each other, each say, in the next hour, I want to get my invoicing done for a client. I want to get a social media campaign for the month done, whatever it might be. And then they'd all put their computers on mute and do their work, and then open it back up and report in if they had completed their task, and say goodbye to each other and move on. And the truth is that you could do something like that with some besties, and maybe 3 weeks out of the month, it's just that. It's just an accountability situation, which I know is sometimes helpful, especially if you're a solo. And then maybe the one time per month, it's actually a meeting, a face-to-face. Let's pick a topic. Let's this week talk about our contracts and how do you do it? Or maybe you do like what these ladies did, and you take your topic of contracts, and one Monday, one person does their presentation via Skype, just like these girls did in person. The point is that there's tons of different ways to do this. So if you're out there alone, don't be alone. Figure out ways to be unalone, right? It's like a podcast that talks right back to you. Okay. Now, I'd love to know if any of you are inspired to take action by this, and if any of you gather 2 or 3 or 4 friends and duplicate this, because I'd like to know, after you've done it and had several meetings under your belt, some of the things that you've learned from it. So if somebody wants to be the little secretary of the group and document some of your aha moments, that'd be crazy fun to have you on the show, and then go down the list and tell us what happened to each of your businesses based on something something that you took action on. All right. So I hope you were inspired. I truly love Christie. She and I have become great friends since that first Instagram finding of each other back in the fall. And it's so much fun getting to know all of you and watching your businesses grow and see how they change based on all of the great information that your colleagues are bringing to us here. So I do appreciate your tuning in, and maybe take a little suggestion out of Christie's book and share the podcast with a buddy, just like she shared it with Paula Kinney. Hi, Paula. How are you? And so anyway, alrighty, that is it for today. I'd like to remind you that we have set up a new email, questions@windowworksnj.com, for any questions that you have. I'm going to tell you exactly why I've set this up. Do you know that just today, Kimberley said to me, oh, you haven't answered that designer that reached out to you on direct message on Instagram. And I'm like, oh, no, that's Shanae. We spoke yesterday. We went back and forth. She's like, no, Lou, that's not. There's one from Kate. And I'm like, what? And so here, I guess if we weren't already connected, you have to ask if you can message me. And of course, I didn't see that. I didn't get that. I didn't know that. And it's been there for a whole week. So I'm really doing really good with all this tech stuff, but there is a limit to my skill set. I'm just saying. And here's a skill set that I've got locked down: email. So if you are just high-fiving and you are just saying awesome show, or like you like that guest or something, I love and appreciate that. That's awesome. Then I don't care how you reach out to me. But when you are reaching out like Kate did, and she has a question and wants help with something, she's sitting there for over a week thinking, well, isn't she just not so nice after all? And I don't like that. I don't like for anybody to feel like they're being ignored. So I'm just not. I mean, Kylie can tell you, Kylie from Studio M, she'll tell you, she messaged me on LinkedIn, which I never saw. Then weeks go by, and we had long since become buddies on Twitter, and then we moved it to Instagram. And then all of a sudden, after 100 years, I went into LinkedIn and I saw that here Kylie had messaged me like 3 months before on LinkedIn. So it's brutal. That's all I can tell you. It's a lot of information coming at each of us every single day. We have to do our best, but I don't want to leave any of you ever hanging, especially when you're asking for help or advice. So the way to do that is questions@windowworksnj.com. All right. So I hope you enjoyed the show. Please reach out, let me know, and don't forget to leave a little review and rate on iTunes. It'd be super awesome. And I hope you guys have an excellent day. Thank you for joining me again today for another episode of A Well-Designed Business. This podcast is a production of WindowWorks in Livingston, New Jersey, your trade resource for custom window treatments and awnings. Learn more about WindowWorks at www.windowworks-nj.com. All of our music is original music by Room 2 Productions. Please contact us if you want to learn more about original music for your business or your events.